Alright, so I just bought Sea of Stars and I just finished Sea of Stars. And I had some opinions about it. And I went, hey, I have a YouTube channel. I could throw together a little video of me just talking about Sea of Stars. So here we are. I'm gonna start with talking about the non-spoiler thoughts on it. And then I'm gonna have a section where I just talk about straight up big plot spoilers for it. So you'll have to deal with that. Okay, so Sea of Stars. So first, non-spoiler. For people who just want to know, do they think that they should get this game? I really wanted to really like this game. It has stunning, absolutely stunning pixel art. It kind of reminds me of the Pokemon Ranger art style, which is a good thing, which is a really good thing. Beautiful lighting, beautiful scenery especially. The character designs and the monster designs in particular, I feel like stand out really well. The music, is pretty good. Music is actually never a huge part for me. It's kind of lower on the tier. I love good music in my games, but I'm never like, well, I had shitty music, so it's not worth it. The gameplay, like the battle system itself, super good. Essentially, you have like when an enemy is gearing up for a big attack or they're casting a spell or something, little locks will show up like slash damage, poison, moon damage or something, and if you can hit the enemy with those certain kinds of attacks, then their attack will be negated. So it kind of becomes a little bit of a puzzle in that way, which I thought was really interesting, trying to figure out what you could do to get that many points in the amount of time that you have to break the locks. So for me, the gameplay, spectacular. That being said, the main characters felt a little lacking in my opinion, especially the main two, Valere and Zale. They're the two main characters. One was born on the winter solstice, one was born on the summer solstice. They're sun and moon themed, they're a duo, and they're basically the same character. There's very little difference between the two of them. In general, they don't have much personality. They're like characters who are good and doing the good thing because that's what they're supposed to do, which can be interesting, but I don't know, they're just lacking much of anything. There's way too many dialogue boxes that's just their face and 3 dots. And again, you can't really tell them apart. You can substitute them in and out pretty interchangeably, which I think is kind of important. Made that way because you can play as either Valere or Zale, but I don't know, they're together all the time, so you could give them personality. However, the third most important character, Garl, whose name is like, if you wanted to name a kid Gary or Carl and you couldn't decide, he's the best character. He's kind, he has a good personality, especially compared to Zale and Valere. He shines with how much he cares, I guess. Like, he actually seems to have more of an opinion on, like, I care because I think, like, the world is worth saving. And not that Valere and Zale don't think that, but it shows through more with Garl. I'll get more into the other characters in the spoiler section, but in general, I think all of the other characters just about are more interesting than Zale and Valere, which kind of makes you go, why is the story centered around Valere and Zale? Obviously because they're the special ones, but you don't even get much of a relationship between the twins. I think they're twins. Are they twins? They seem like twins to me. I played them thinking they were twins. And the other characters. The story also feels a little bit messy and confusing. Like, if nothing else, it needed to just have somebody go through it and smooth it out. It feels unintentionally messy. Like, okay, the very beginning of the game, I think, highlights it really well. So you start the game with, there's a guy in like an archive, and he's like, I'm gonna tell you a story. Which isn't my favorite way to start a story, but it's fine, it's whatever. And then we kind of cold open on Valere and Zale, and they're like, we've just started our mission. And you're like, great, that's great. And it even like slaps you right into your first fight sequence without explaining it, which I think is a fun way to do it and then kind of backtrack and tell you how the fighting system works. Deltarune did that, which I actually really liked. But then you have a flashback to their childhood, and it feels really early in the game for a flashback to begin with. And then you're in the flashback literally from when they're kids all the way to when they start their journey. This is within the first 20 minutes of the game, so I don't feel bad spoiling it. But I think it really highlights that there are almost 3 ideas of how to start the game right here, and they went with all of them. And so it's just kind of that sense of like there's too much. Let's see, what else is there to say without spoiling anything? I mean, I finished the game. No matter what I'm saying about it, I did finish it. I did play it for like 40 hours or something. The ending, without spoiling anything, did feel like it was missing something. I have a feeling there might be some kind of like tie-in of this game to other games by the creators or something. I read something about an ARG, but I didn't really look that hard into it. Because whether there is more story out there or not, I think the game should be able to stand alone without it. And as it is, it feels like it's missing something. That's kind of a point that I think of a lot when it comes to like indie games, especially mascot horror indie games and lore, where there's this desire to have a hidden lore for people to discover, but it means that they're just subtracting things that should be in the story itself. Would I recommend this game? I think I would. I did enjoy it. I would probably recommend buying it on sale. I bought it on sale, not even a big sale. I'm pretty picky when it comes to even buying video games though, so... Alright, on to the spoiler section. This is gonna have major spoilers for major plot twists and events in the game. If you don't want that, if you want to go into it as blind as possible, which I did, and I think it was the best experience for me to go into it totally blind, leave now and come back later and hear my opinions. Okay, spoiler section, here we come. The world of the game, like I've said, is big, and it feels a little too big. There's a lot of like different groups and different names and places that are just kind of like rattled off, and it becomes really hard to keep track of. You do have a lore keeper in your group. Her name is Teeks, and she'll tell you little stories about the places, but they're not really organized. I think it would have been nicer if maybe you had a diary you could refer to that would just tell you like, man, I learned this. I've been playing a lot of Tales of games with one of my friends, and I think that a lot of things that are done in Tales of games, this game it could have really done with. One of my favorite things of like small world building though is actually pretty early on in the game with the like, I don't know, what's it called? The Eclipse Academy, where Zale and Valere are kind of raised and trained. Is that there's a lot of beds, but only the 2 of them. And you find out later that there used to be a lot of children of the solstice, but they were kind of wiped out in a big fight from a while ago. I think that was good. But again, there's just, I think it really could have done with a bit more of a lore book that you could refer to and read through and remind you of things and just be like, almost like a glossary, like, damn, I can't remember what the Dweller of Dread was. Tell me what that was. That's from way later in the game, so it kind of doesn't matter. But just something. Again, there's a lot of different groups that you end up like kind of cutting to throughout. At first, there's the archivist guy, Reshon, that you cut to, and he'll be like, I'm telling the story. I'm here to remind you guys that I'm telling you a story, which I kind of could have done without, but I get it because you're building up to the fact that you meet him later. Then you cut to like 1, 2, 3, and 4, the evil guys, and then later you're at the pillars and you cut to the bird guys talking about you. I don't know, it just, especially when I got to the bird people, I was just kind of fed up with it. There's also flashbacks sometimes where I'm like, I'm not sure we needed a flashback. There's the flashback for Brugaves, right before you get to the Clockwork Castle. And I understand that it was necessary in order so that you, the player, have a better understanding of why Brugaves and Erlina are doing what they're doing. I'm not sure if that was the best way it could have been done. It felt a little weird. Same with there's a flashback with Reshon and Fleshmancer. It felt weird. in my opinion. Which I know I'm here asking for more explanation, and then I'm getting upset with the explanation that they gave me. I don't know. Do I know how I would fix it? No. But, I can have opinions. In particular, though, I would have liked a better explanation about Luana and Solon. So there's a whole thing about the children of the solstice. They're supposed to fight the dwellers, and then also the final goal for them is to, ascend and become the gods that they're following in the footsteps of, that they're worshipping, Luana and Solon. And that's not totally explained who they even are. Which, considering that they play such an important role, I would think that they would have a better explanation. Or I would want them to. And again, if this is explained somewhere else, that doesn't negate the fact that it left this feeling a little empty. There are also some things that are just never explained. Like Bist and his singing magic is said to be older than the two guys who kind of ascended to godhood, Reshan and the Fleshmancer. We don't find out much about that. I don't know. It feels like there's something missing. Okay, quickly running down the characters, the main characters, and what I think of them. Alright, we have Garl. Garl, by far, the best character. He is a fat character, and one of his key personality traits is that he's a cook, and so he's associated with food, which is not my favorite, but it's more of he wants to cook for people, he wants to provide, he wants to help, and he shows that through his cooking. So it gets a pass from me. Garl does have this thing, this is a major spoiler, where he dies, but then he's given a little bit more time to live, and he kind of does this whole thing about waking this big dragon, which is really cool, but a lot of it is shown through him through a vision, which ruins it a bit for me. I think that, here's my hot take. I think that Garl should have been combined with Teeks, who is kind of your lore keeper, history nerd. She doesn't fight, she's just kind of with you. I think they should have given those traits to Garl, and then after that big fight, and he's working on borrowed time, he's like, I'm finally putting together all of these cool things that I've learned from going places. I think that would have been a little bit better of payoff. But overall, I really, really like Garl. I'm gonna get into my thoughts in a bit more on Garl's death, though. Bist, like I kind of said, I feel like we're missing some of his character. I think it's cool that he has this living glass form. I love his animations. The way that he can clearly mold this glass into any shape he wants and makes total use of it. It's a lot of fun. But he has a history that we never totally learn. And I think I would have liked to learn a bit more about Bist's history. Reshan, again, I have a lot of complicated feelings on a lot of this game if you haven't picked up on that yet. Reshan, the immortal alchemist. I liked him on the team, I liked his abilities, but it is weird to give you such an overpowered immortal character who's like, I'm just gonna be at your power level so that I don't make the other immortal angry. It's kind of a weird vibe. Sarai, I really, really liked Sarai. Of the main cast, I feel like she's right up there with Garl, actually, with terms of having a character, having a personality. She has this pirate crew who we don't know how she found this pirate crew, but I like that she clearly cares about them and their opinion of her. And they trust her, though they don't have a reaction when she reveals that she's really big spoilers here. When she reveals that she's a cyborg, I would have liked that. Also, she has a solid reason for seeking out Valere and Zale and wanting them to come to her world. So I felt like actually her character and her payoff was really, really good. And then there's Zale and Valere. And again, my opinion from the non-spoiler section pretty much still stands. They don't have much personality. I wish that they had more opinions. They were raised in Moon Cradle their whole life. In fact, separated from most of Moon Cradle for most of their life as they were training. I would have liked to have seen them being interested in the world a bit more. Maybe it could be a whole thing that they have a little personality. And then they start to find out more about themselves and their interests as they get out into the world. I understand there's a whole apocalypse going on, but that doesn't mean that you can't come to understand yourself a bit better. Very minor detail. In the game, it stresses at the beginning, like, that they're sewing these cloths, but they're very clearly weaving these cloths. Like, is there somewhere where weaving and sewing is the same? They're very clearly weaving. I don't know what's up with that. They also made these magical cloths, and I felt like it didn't come into play enough. They're just kind of like, we made these magical cloths as a bit of our training. And now that's done. And now we have a cool accessory. Which I'm all for a cool accessory, but if it was such a big deal they had to make these, I think they should have been more important. So you have all these characters. You don't see them interact too much with each other, and some of them are a little lacking in personality. What could they have done to have given these characters a bit more personality? Well, like the Tales of series done, they could have had skits. That's my big thing. I think they should have had skits. Or something of the like when you're sitting around the campfire. For those who haven't played the Tales of series, skits are in the middle of your gameplay will stop, and there's just kind of talking heads of the characters discussing something that just happened, their thoughts, sometimes minor things, sometimes big things. Sometimes it's a hint towards something coming up. People who have played Tales of Symphonia, the Bell Pepper skit, I think of a lot. So I think it could have used more of that, just kind of casual character interactions. And the skits in Tales of games are really not complicated. It's usually just pictures of the characters and their mouth is maybe opening and closing. They're simple, but they're effective to help build characters and relations and opinions. I think Sea of Stars could have used that. The Garl problem. And the Garl problem is that they brought Garl back to life. The problem also is the vision thing, but this is the other Garl problem. That they brought him back to life, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. Because, as I said, I feel like Garl is actually the heart of the game, and so killing him kind of made that second half of the game after he's dead weird and painful, almost. But I do get it, because it was an emotional. I cried when he died. And they gave it a good moment to kind of breathe before they just moved on to whatever was next. That being said, the time travel, I think that bringing Garl back to life was okay. My problem comes from how they did it. They have this time travel thing where Best goes to the past, shapeshifts into Garl, and takes his place. And they even dig him out of the grave that they put Garl in. And they say that he's been there the whole time, but Garl also remembers dying and was like, I was with you guys as a ghost the whole time, and I'm not sure how that works. And it makes you go, wait, Garl did a bunch of cool stuff right before he died. Did Best do that then? Is that all Best's deal? It was confusing, and I'm not sure how I would have done it differently. If there's just definitely something lack. One aspect, one theme that's kind of prevalent that I would have done something more with is the whole theme of naming. You have the Fleshmancer saying that he's going to give Erlina and Brugaves and 1, 2, 3, and 4 new names in their new forms. And it's kind of like this example of control over them, I think. Possession, giving them a new purpose. And we actually see this interestingly reflected in Garl, who also names things. He names the town of Mirth. He names the Sleeper to Wentworth. He names the unnamed volcano island into Kiln Island. That's interesting to me, this theme of naming and purpose. And the reasons why, because Garl clearly puts so much thought into when he names things. I like the theme. I wish there was one more instance of it later in the game. I want to make it clear that before I get to my final point, that I did enjoy Sea of Stars. It's just often easier to talk about and pinpoint the things that bugged you about a game than it is to pinpoint the things that it did well. Because if it's doing them well, often they kind of flow well. Actually, quickly talking about one thing I really liked the mini game Wheels. I was obsessed with Wheels. Wheels was amazing. I'd play a game that was just Wheels. Anyway, I want to make it clear, I did enjoy this game. I'm going to rank this at the end, on a ranking thing, and it's not an F. It's, mid-tier. But, mid-tier is just kind of mid. Alright, my final point of contention is the final bosses. And there's other things, but this is just kind of what's coming to mind after I've finished playing this game. But my final thought is the final bosses. Both Erlina, I'm not going to try and pronounce her big fancy new name, I'm sorry, and the Fleshmancer. Erlina, I thought they gave her kind of a cool monster appearance, and then she becomes bigger, which is also cooler. But I feel like because she was the final boss, she should have had a third form, you know? Same with the Fleshmancer. He has his kind of caped guy appearance. He becomes a monster for like a shooting bullet hell minigame, which is fine. But for some reason, I don't know, it just felt cluttered to me instead of intentional. Most of the cool monster designs feel intentional. His felt like creepy clutter. And I think he also could have benefited from a cool third phase. It's not like you kill him in the end, so I guess I sort of understand why he doesn't die, but I just would have liked something more from these fights. They didn't feel, I don't know, I even missed their, maybe it's just because I was tired of the game at this point because I had been playing it non-stop up until this point, which can kind of have an impact on your playing experience for the better or worse. But I didn't even feel too much emotion over it, you know? Those are kind of my main thoughts, I guess main gripes with the game, which feels mean to say, because again, I did finish the game. I played it for 40 hours. I played it almost non-stop as soon as I could. I just wish there was something more to it. It felt like it was missing a certain je ne sais quoi that would have brought it home. Also, there was another world that was more high-tech, which is always a hard sell for me. I eventually came around, but it's always a hard sell for me. Okay, how would I rank this? I have put together a little ranking chart. As you can see, it is S, A, B, C, D, and F tier, and a few games that I like, and where they fall on there. Again, because I'm so picky about games, most of my games actually end up pretty high on the list, as you can see from the few that I decided to put on there. And I'm going to give Sea of Stars, like, a fine B ranking. It's good. I could see myself honestly picking it up and playing it again at some point. Just to, like, relive the battle, some of the moments, some of the character designs even. I have too many struggles to put it too far up, you know? What was the point of this? My audience is Deltarune, and here I am making a video for Sea of Stars. My audience is Theories, and I'm making a review video. Oops, oh well. I hope if anybody watched it, you liked it, and that now you have a better idea to make an opinion on if you want to play the game or not. That's it for me. I hope you have a good day wherever you are.